And okay, so the title for the talk today is Tech Transformation and AI ML-based targeting for the business. And this talk is organized by Women Who Code Kuala Lumpur as well as Maxis. So if you are listening Women Who Code for the first time, let me just introduce what is Women Who Code. So Women Who Code is an international non-profit organization, and our mission is to inspire women excel in tech careers. So we are in KL since 2014, and currently we are expanding our network in all parts of the world to promote, to encourage more women joining the tech career. Next. Okay, yeah, this one also get next. Okay, so we organize a lot of events and workshops from time to time. So currently, this event is organized by Data Track, but in fact, we have a lot of tracks in Women Code. We have tracks like product, data, software engineering, cybersecurity, and many more. So we organize a workshop, technical workshop, keynote talks, or panel discussion, study group, or even the technology focused kind of workshop, like we have Python, SQL, and also Excel workshop before. So if you miss out our event, you can also find all our recording on YouTube or our LinkedIn page. Okay, next. Next, I would like to ask Sunita to introduce you about Maxis and their opportunity available in Maxis.
All right, thank you, Wanshin. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us at this event this afternoon. Hope all of you had your lunch and is geared up for the exciting agenda we have planned this afternoon. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Sunita. I'm the head of Young Talent at Maxis. I look after 3 exciting portfolios under the Young Talent umbrella, which are scholarships, internships, and also graduate programs. So to kick things off, allow me to give you a high-level overview of Maxis as a company. So as you can see from the slide, undoubtedly, in terms of our strength as a telco provider, we have 93% ownership of the 4G population coverage in Malaysia. We hope that most of you, if not all of you, are our loyal Maxis subscribers here. And naturally, this position has also allowed us to be recognized as the undisputed mobile network leader. We are also proud to share that our strength as a leading telco provider in Malaysia has garnered us the top seat as the mobile revenue market leader, all thanks to our loyal customers. For the next point, this is actually aligned to our ambition to be the leading converged solutions provider. So we are aspiring to take things to the next level. We want to leverage on our core strengths as a network market leader to be able to provide a more complete, comprehensive bundled solutions and offerings to elevate our services to all our customers and also expand to a larger market reach. So this is all made possible with our digital transformation journey by adopting cutting-edge technologies in everything that we do in Maxis to ensure our customers are always ahead. So that brings us to the final point. So keeping our employees engaged is also a key factor in Maxis. So in support of our diversity and inclusion initiatives, we have a variety of activities and events to cater to all employees' interests and preferences. This is all to help Maxis employees achieve work-life integration. So engaging with our employees virtually during the pandemic was even more important, from esports tournaments to virtual live comedy shows and even mental health related talks. We are happy to have very engaged employees in Maxis who view Maxis as a fun place to work. All right, so we'll move on to the next slide. Okay, so here we would also like to take this great opportunity, or it's a great platform to share this opportunity with all of you, either as a potential applicant if you fall into this category, or if not, you can share this program with your family, friends, or your network who you feel would benefit greatly from the scholarship program. So Maxis recently launched its 2021 scholarship program. We launched it 24th of September, and the application timeline will run through until 24th of October. It's a 1-month period. So the closing date is going to end very, very soon. So very quickly, we'll share there are 3 main offerings: women in tech, and also young leaders. And I would like to highlight especially on some of the great benefits. There are so many other benefits, but if I could pick 3 main benefits that we want to shout out to, it will be the financial aid up to ringgit 40,000 annually, a guaranteed internship opportunity, and also a job placement at Maxis upon completion of your course. So more details and on eligibility requirements and so on and next steps can be obtained from the QR code as you see on the slide. So please scan and please share. We hope to award as many deserving scholars in Malaysia as much as possible. Right? So thank you so much for your time, and I'll pass it back to you, Wai Shin.
Thanks, Sunita, for introducing such an amazing opportunity in Maxis. So next, I would like to walk you through the agenda for today. So we will start with introduction and followed by talk on tech transformation in Maxis. And after that, ALML targeting for business. And last, we have 15 minutes of Q&A. And last 5 minutes, we will wrap up the session. And we will end our talk at 3:30. Next slide, please. Some of our house rules. So please mute your mic during the session. If you have any questions, you can always type and ask in the chat, and we'll attend the questions during the Q&A session. And after finishing the talk, please, we appreciate you to submit your feedback to help us improve and know what kind of topics you are interested in the next session. And lastly, we will also take a group photo at the end of the session. Okay, right, next, I would like to introduce our speakers for today. So we have 2 speakers. First, we have Bee Hong, who is the head of Insight Strategy and Delivery at Maxis. So she has 18 years plus experience in leadership role or hands-on roles. So she is experienced in various areas, including data, BI, insights, MIS, information governance, data management, project management, and also campaign management. So she's actively driving data culture and agile culture in their organization through various methods. One of it is having Data Awareness Day to drive data awareness. And our second speaker is Ethan. He is a data scientist at Maxis. So he was a scholar who graduated with a master in chemical engineering. Currently, Ethan is an AI architect in Maxis to help to solve business problems using AI and ML framework. So he is helping in various different domains such as finance, consumer, and enterprise businesses. Okay, so now we introduce you our speakers today. So next, I'd like to introduce Bee Hong to first talk about tech transformation. So Bee Hong, yeah, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Wai Shin. Okay, let me take over the screen. Let me share the screen. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks to Women Who Code KL, Brianna and team for inviting us for this for today's session. So I'm going to cover technology transformation, and Ethan will be covering the AI/ML based targeting for the business. Today, I will be covering the few topics here. So about me, a little bit about me, about my career path for these 18 years. And then technology transformation, which will be covering technology, processes, as well as the people. So yeah, I graduated from university in bachelor degrees of computer science and major in MIS. So how do I started my career is the first job I was quite lucky. I think within a month of the graduation, straight away I gotten the job, and it is also one of the key player in the market, which is DG. So I attached to DG for about 2 years plus. During the attachment, I was an engineer. I graduated in computer science, but ended up I was an engineer. At the same time, what I was doing is in these two years plus is I was doing a support role 24/7 on call to support the IDD calling system, as well as I wrote some of the script as well to generate the some of the calling pin and all those, and also some of the tools or the program to also monitor the performance of the sales as well. So followed by then, I move on my career because I was thinking that maybe I can do a little bit more in terms of programming. So I decided, hey, I wanted to try out more in depth. This is where I picked up in 1 year's attachment with B2B e-commerce company. So I picked up PHP, JSP, JavaScript, and all those. Then this is where I started my I think 15 years plus now with Maxis. So when I first joined Maxis, I am a MIS executive where I start picking up some of the programming or the data query, where I start dealing with a huge volume of data at that point of time. So that is where I start to learn more about the data warehouse. And then from there, few years later, I have a chance that together with a team that we start to support a CRM campaign end-to-end, where during this period, I would like to also thank the team that I had, which is they are still with me today. During that point of time, we really we are a very high performance campaign operation team. Why I would say that? Because between three of us, we will cover from end to end in terms of the campaign support for prepaid campaign. So from pre-sizing, from targeting, from end result tracking, or the end to end CRM campaign cycle. Then next, I started another not a new role per se, but then this is very much more focused on consumer centrics. So I was leading the data extraction team, or you can call it MIS team, plus the data management as well, where we start to standardize or start to consolidate the definition that we have within consumer business. And this is also the opportunity where we start to establish the self-serve reporting capability especially in consumer business. Because in the past, right, a lot of us, we are processing the information using Excel, but this is where we start introducing a better tools for Maxis to start self-serve reporting, so that at the same time, we can also reduce ad hoc requests. Then followed by them, this is where I started together with a team where we centralize and we start to support company-wide. It's not just about consumer business or enterprise, but this is wider role where we will be focusing to centralize the MIS as well as the BI delivery plus data governance and data demand management as well. Later on in 2020 last year, we together with IT team, we combine together, and then this is where we start to form the big data COE team, and we start to focus on MIS automation, insights, and visual insights delivery. This is a new role plus where we wanted to headed to, and also to focus on, which is on data value creation. At the same time, to drive the awareness and the self-serve enablement throughout the company. So let's start with the technology transformation. How do we get started on in this journey, and why are we doing that? Reason is we have a mission that we need to achieve. So our mission or our goals is to enable insight-driven organization by increasing a better and also more strategic data decision making to drive operational excellence, cultivate innovation based on the data that we have to harness the power of the data, and also improving the quality, the data solution and tools that we're offering to our business partner or stakeholders. So when we started this journey, there are also 4 main areas that we wanted to solve as well, mainly on rigid data the data architecture. Why? Is because we need a better data architecture that will come with more flexibility, scalability to enable us to drive more innovation. Then disparate and silo data sources. I think this is not the challenges to Maxis only, but I think this will happen to a lot of corporate as well, when you have more and more data to deal with, especially when you have a legacy database. And then how do we move forward, right? So this is also one of the challenges that we want to overcome. And insights engagement are not mainstream. In different divisions, we have a different pace that who are start using or leveraging on insights to turn that into actionable item, but that is not mainstream. What we wanted is we wanted more and more use case so that we can drive continuously to drive business value. And last but not least, that is a competency gap. when we are moving toward where we wanted to be, so at the same time, we also wanted to focus on how do we upskill or how do we acquire more talent in order to help us to achieve that. So in order to overcome all these challenges, what we will anchor on is to focus on technology transformation as well as development in terms of the people, plus to establish the right process in place. So let's start with technology. So technology here, I'll be covering data platform transformation as well as the tools that we have. So what is data platform anyway? Data platform is actually a total stack of the solution that enable the end-to-end data processing from ingestion all the way up to the action. And at the same time, it will also enable the governance and also the data governance, data access, and also security as well, while we are delivering the solution here. Let's zoom in the evaluation of the data platform in the market. In 1980s, I think most of you may also aware of, these are the popular databases or data platform that's available. So Oracle, MySQL, Microsoft SQL, I think this is, everyone should be quite familiar with this. And then next, when it comes to the 1990s, we have a more powerful platform which can handle more large volume of data at that point of time. So example, SAS Data Warehouse, Teradata, or Oracle Exadata. And later on, when we talk about when we want to handle more volume of data, what about the cost? What about the efficiency? So this is where the markets is also start moving towards the open source storage as well, because that is given the consideration of the cost effectiveness. Lastly, where we are heading to right now in the market is everyone start moving to the cloud data warehouse. So let's zoom in. Who are the key leaders in the market for the cloud data warehouse or modernized data warehouse? So if you refer to the Forrester Wave of the cloud data warehouses report in March 2021, these are some of the players in the market. But if you look at the leader, so Google, Teradata, and Microsoft, Oracle, these are the key leaders with the strongest strategy and also the offering of capabilities that they have. Then what's next? How do we when we talk about cloud strategy, cloud journey or strategy, was it as simple as we just dump everything into the cloud? So answer is it may not be. Actually, in order to do that, it is a complex and mega project. So it needs a lot of alignment, understanding, planning, business case, migration strategy, technology selection, and all the testing that need to go on and on, right? So our end goal is when we are embarked on this journey, right, how do we ensure that technology transformation that works? Because I think a lot of people wanted to go to that, but whether have they planned it effectively, strategize it accordingly to get the benefit of it and also to ensure the success of it. So then we can turn that to a tech and turn this technology to the tech-enabled business model to drive business value. So in Maxis, how do we do that is, this is the journey that we have been through. So from data puddle that we have, so try to imagine here, these are all the small database or legacy databases that we have. So the challenges where we have is with the legacy platform is disparate data sources. So try to imagine, right? Example, this is SAS Data Warehouse, this is Oracle, MySQL, MS SQL, and all those. Then try to imagine if you are the data analyst or you are the business analyst, how are you going to access this information, right, seamlessly? Because if you talk about different platform, it also means that you have to write different script to access that. Plus, you need a different connector as well to access all this information, right? So on top of that, there's also growing amount of data with the current platform. Are we able to handle that in terms of the volume, in terms of the speed that's needed, as well as the variety of the data that we have? We talk about structured data and unstructured data, right? As well as the cost to maintain it, because different platform means that you have to maintain different server, different software. Here comes the capex, opex cost as well. Plus the skill set is also very different. Then we move on to, with all these constraints that we have, we move on to the data lake journey. where we start to embrace open source. We started to centralize all the information or the data set that we have to enable the new data solution or product. At the same time, there is still a challenges that we are facing. So example, it is still quite costly to maintain. Why? That's because of the growing amount of the data that in the market, especially now a lot of the company, including Maxis, we are moving toward digital transformation as well, right? More and more data that's coming through, and we have a more and more subscriber that are using more data, means that we are also start to capture more and more data as well. And then from there, there's also long cycle to upgrade or to upgrade the server, to do the security patch, and also to make sure that we have a new features that's released, right? So this is also a lot of maintenance works that need to be done. Put aside cost. Cost is also one of the factor as well. And then expertise that's required to maintain this. Then that is why we are moving to DataOcean, which is where we start to embark on the cloud journey, where we in Maxis we have 100% cloudification mission that we are moving towards to, because we know that there are more and more benefit that we will be getting when we are moving towards this platform. Sorry, maybe Wai-Shin, can I just check how do I hide this? Because it's blocking some of the content, the content here.
Sorry, Bihong. If you are looking at it, right, we won't be able to see. We are seeing your slides completely.
Oh, okay,
So
sure.
it's only of you. Yes, yeah, it's clear
okay.
on us. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thanks. Okay, then here's the benefit. Sorry, yeah. So then this is the benefit that we are getting, and why we are considering to move or migrate all of our data legacy platform towards the cloud data warehouse. So scalability. In the past, right, try to imagine if you want to increase your data storage, or you want to increase the memory in your server or upgrade the software, what do you need to do? You need to do a lot of you need to involve procurement, you need to involve different party. Then you also have to handle the shipping of the item as well, and then do the installation, right? So then with this, it is scalable, because as long as, and somehow it is also pay per use, right? So when you need that, then you can scale it anytime. Then this is also a fully managed services, whereby you don't have to worry about the software upgrade, the data security patching anymore. This will be handled by your service provider. Cost saving, we have started the cloud journey somewhere in 2019, and now we are start to get the benefit of it as well, which is part of it is the cost saving. So we can see right now, right, it is more than 2.5 times cost saving that we are already achieved by moving towards the cloud data warehouse. And also the processing and the deployment speed, this is of course much more better compared in the past, because in the past, when you try to process the core volume data or the data usage CDR that we have, right, it may take you hours or day, but right now it's only within a few hours. So then, in terms of the operation by data engineering team, right now, or data ops team, they have a much more simpler or automated data operation already, because there is also a tech, the stack of technology stack that's enabled for them to templatize that as well. And this is also very critical, which is the availability. Try to recall, when was the last time, right, you received an email from your ISD or IT partner saying that, hey, we are going through a maintenance, we need to upgrade this, and service is not available. So with this, right, you no longer have to worry about that, because this is also taken care by the service provider already. And then we talk about the data governance and security. This is also part and parcel of the data platform solutioning as well. And together with all this, right, there is also integrated metadata management. Try to imagine in the past, right, if you have a disparate data sources, when you want to search for the information that's available, how do you do that? You have to look for the data dictionary, and then you have to go to different sources to get that information. But with the centralized or standardized platform, right, through the data catalog search, you can get the information ready. And more importantly, now you have insights accessible everywhere, right? Anytime, anywhere already. Because it's through the single sign-on, through the underlying security that we have, then this is a safe and secure connection for you to access your insights anywhere. Last but not least, this is a very key benefit that we have is we are able to start focus on business value rather than to focus on the IT ops or maintenance of the platform. With that, so here, this is our data architecture for our cloud data warehouse plus the data lake as well. So all the information will be transformed from the data, be it structured or unstructured or semi-structured data, transform it into the data warehouse. Data will be loaded into the data lake, and then it will further transform to the data model and also the data mart, reporting mart for different purposes. So take for example for Ethan, maybe he will be more interested in terms of the raw data that's made available, right? So then for different type of user, then they will access to different level of the data layer that we have in order to meet their purpose. Okay, on top of that, we also have the tools that is also enabled. So right now, in the past, you may have different data query tools that you are using, DB Visualizer or Code or different things. But right now, you have one single the web console for you to do the query. At the same time, you also have the default VI tool that allow you to also visualize data. On top of that, it is also compatible, and there's also more and more solution that's also available in the platform to allow user, different type of user to access and also to harness the power of the data. Then here come the process. For the process itself, why the data governance process is very important. Try to imagine you have a huge volume of data, you have many you have huge volume of data that's sitting in data lake. At the same time, you also have different tables that is also aggregated in different layers, right? Then how do we make sure that the data is usable, consistent, and also trusted, which means that the data quality is also in place? This is very important for us to enable the company-wide to align them so that this will help us to create the data culture at all levels within the organization itself. So take, for example, the data that we ingested, right? So for the data that we ingested into the cloud data warehouse, all this information will also be classified, and classified means that it will be recognized as, example, certain information, it will be tagged as confidential, or example, PII or secret information. So then, based on different type of data classification, only selected user with the right access control will be able to access to that information. And on top of that, data quality is very important because we want to focus more to harvest the value of the data, to harness the value of the data, and we wanted this to also be taken care in the platform with the right process or right measure that is in place as well. So these are the metrics that is being used or defined to ensure the data quality is in place. On top of that, we spoke about metadata management is also very key, whereby this will align everyone in terms of business grocery in the company, right? So try to imagine you have different divisions. You have finance, you have S&R, sales and service, and then you have consumer, you have enterprise. How do we align everyone with the same definition so that when you talk about the right term, example, if you talk about the gross add, right, it means acquisition of our customer. So everyone have the same understanding. What does it mean? Right, so then this will ease in terms of the alignment with everyone, and also the consistent on how do we also track that information or the KPI, and also how do we use that information. Data catalog, this is the one that I explained just now. With the centralized data platform, the cloud data platform that we have today, by searching certain keyword, right, you will be able to know where does the data sit. Then that will help you to easily explore or discover more and more data. Data retention and archiving. So with the different classification of information and also the predefined in different layers, right, in terms of the data retention. So then this will be automated. Means that indirectly it will help to ensure that we protect our customers' data. For example, PII data, we should not store it more than X days after we have analyzed it, if need be, right? And then at the same time, in terms of the data that we store in different layers, because it comes together with cost and maintenance as well. So we only store what need to be stored and to be used based on the data retention that's defined. With that, besides the technology stack or data platform that we have, this comes with the data management and also data governance and info security in place to make sure that we also have the right data governance framework to ensure everyone in Maxis are aligned into the definition, processes, standard, how to get access to the data, and all those. The third pillar, or this is the most important one, people. So try to imagine, in the past we talk about big data. Why we go with big data? We talk about many V's, right? You have volume, variety, velocity, so on and so forth. So maybe a lot of people in the past, there is a statement saying that we can't get the value from the data if the data, the database or the tables that you have is not large enough. But whether is that true or not? So try to imagine today, you are very good in collecting all the data, and then have you figured out how or what to do with those information? So then people and the skill set that's available or talent that's available in the company that's become more and more important. In Maxis, we have this is the distribution of the data or categorization of the data users that we have based on from analytical view perspective, because in Maxis also we have a various of the so-called data lake or the platform that we have as well. This is mainly more focusing on analytical perspective. So if you look at percentage, right, the large amount of the user that we have, 61% is actually content viewer. What does it mean by content viewer? Content viewer, it could be the sales manager, or it could be some of the product manager or business user that they only receive the information. They don't really discover, explore much into the data. Maybe they can just go to the dashboard or reports that are available, then they can just filter the dates based on what information that is already pre-designed or defined for them. And then we have 34% of our data user is actually data discoverer. For this group of people, they are slightly more advanced when compared to the content viewer. Means that they are the people that will want to explore more based on what is already predefined for them. So to enable this solution, I will show that shortly. How do we enable different solutioning for this group of people? Because they can access it via data query, backend data query, or they can also through visualization, through BI tools as well. Content creator, we only have about 2%. Why? Is because this group of people, they are the expert or in certain area that they will enable solutioning to the to business user, to wider audience or greater Maxis, to greater Maxis data user in this case. So today we have about 2%. And then for expert user, take for example Ethan will be classified as the expert user, where he will have more skill, or he will apply certain algorithms, statistical or AI/ML to get to harness the value of the data, and also to drive the business use case or to solve the business problem. For me in Maxis, for my team, majority of them, we are the content creators. So let me go a little bit in depth into that. So I am part of the Big Data COE. These are the main 5 pillars in Big Data COE. So we have a visual insights team that will primarily focusing on data demands, and we also manage the change requests and develop and design the dashboard interactive report to enable business user for the performance tracking. We also involve in certain program or project, as well as what this is one of the vision or the target that we want to have is we want to try to drive the adoption as much as possible, right, in terms of self-serve BI solution, so we can empower business user to do their own discovery. So take for example the solutioning that we are providing here. It could be self-serve visual insights, means that the information we are prepared here, and then user can just drag and drop. So try to imagine, based on the data that's sitting in the database, right? You can see all the records in the tables forms. But if we do it slightly different, when we try to visualize the information, right, then you can see the different patterns that's available. That will already straight away give you an insight already. Then you will know, example, by looking at this trend, you know something is not right, right? And also why the distribution is so different. And we also have the the pre-designed or created dashboard, automated dashboard to support in terms of the executive summary as well. For the management team or for the bosses, right? If they want to know the health of the business by going through the one simple slide, you will already know where you want to focus on, where you want to zoom into. And this is also allowed this is a scorecard tracking, allow us to also monitor, right, how far we are from our actual versus the target. This is mainly on the visual insights team, visual insight designer. How do we enable the solution for business user? So next, another thing that is also part of my team is insights delivery. So for insights delivery, the engagement with business user is slightly different, because this will be more focusing on how do we maximize the value of the data that we already have in our cloud data warehouse. So here we have an insights demand. So if certain business unit or division, if they have a use case or opportunity that they want to go with, then they will also reach out to us, and then we will collaborate with them, and I then try to understand what's the business problem, and then discuss together, collaborate together. It can be through agile analytics squad. It depends on the complexity of the problem or opportunity that we are trying to achieve. So from here, then we will drive data value creation. Yeah, and in the company wide itself as well, we also have certain big initiative, which is we call it data breakthrough project or data driven transformation program, where we also will be part of it to also contribute in terms of our skill as well as our expertise. And last but not least, we also want to turn whatever insight that we have created into, we want to activate that data and then make it available, integrated with the application system to make a better decision. So this is where we wanted to be. So we want to turn the data into actionable insights from the data that we have, right? So we will identify what is important, what raw data that's required. If it is new data, then we will ingest into data warehouse. If not, then we can start already consume the data that's already made available. So from there, we will clean, transform, or derive the data that need be. Then how do we make it more meaningful is we will connect different pieces of the data together to add meaning or value to it, so that from there we will have a better insights ready. And along with that, right, by piecing everything together, here is where we discover more and more insights, right, to enable the deep understanding as well as the better decision making. From there, based on what we have known of and how it will help business, that's the next step where we want to turn that into actionable insights to drive the business outcome. It could be operational efficiency, it could be revenue growth. Yeah. So this is how we collaborate and work together with business user. Okay, this is the last slide about people that I have. So in Maxis, we work very closely with learning and development team, which is our people organization. We also work together with our technology partner as well to drive the skill and development plan. So we will collaborate with them, and also we will also discuss with learning and development what are the training that's required for the team. So try to imagine when we go through from the relational database to data warehouse to open source and also to cloud data warehouse. Try to imagine the people, the Maxis people, right? Because how do we also provide the opportunity for them to also learn, pick up, and also upskill where they are. So for the people today, for the group of people that with me, most of them, they have been quite long in Maxis already. So during this transformation period, try to imagine if you were them, right? You will also go through a different type of learning. It could be on-the-job training, or it could be also the instructor training or online training to enable you to upskill yourself from content. So from data discoverer, become content creator, and the end state that we want to be is actually to become an expert user, so that we can, with this, right, this is not just limited to my team, but actually this is the growth that we envision together with the greater Maxis. Why? Is it because data literacy is very important, because this will lead to our ambition or our mission, where we want to drive an insight-driven organization, right? So this is the data literacy is where we want it to happen. This is a culture and also a learning that we want the whole Maxis to adopt, so that this is the key for us to unlock, right, the power of the data democratization in Maxis to drive business outcome or business value. So with that, it completes the whole technology transformation that we have. Is not just about data platform, but it will cover technologies, tools, processes, as well as the people. So by having this, we have a future-proof foundation, right? It will allow us to focusing more on the unlocking the business value, not just within big data COE, but it will also collaboration with different business users, different stakeholders as well. So then, Ethan, over to you. You may share with us more on how you, with this strong foundation or technology transformation, right, it can further drive AI/ML based targeting use case for the business. Thank you. I will unshare my slide, Ethan.
Yep, I think thanks, Bee Hong. Ethan, are you
Sorry,
ready?
how? Yeah, you can just take over. How do I unshare? Okay.
Yeah, you just pull down and then there's a bar there. You can type on the stop sharing lah. But Ethan, are you there? Are you ready?
Yeah, sorry, I think just now I couldn't unmute. It wasn't allowed to. So I need to turn on my video as well. I think I need permission for that.
Sorry, hold on.
Do you want me to share this? Continue to share the slide?
No, I can
okay.
take over.
Yep, Ethan, you can. I think you can share your video now.
Okay,
yep, and then
yep.
You can share the screen lah.
Yep, I will take over. Give me 1 second.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, can see my screen, yeah?
Yep.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Ethan, and I currently work as a data scientist at Maxis in the AI and Advanced Analytics team. So just to start with a short introduction, I graduated with a master's in chemical engineering about 3 years ago. And as a Maxis Scholar, I soon joined the AI and AA team at Maxis as a fresh graduate. So within the few years I've been here, I worked on multiple domains such as finance, consumer and enterprise businesses, where this has mainly consisted of designing and operationalizing ML models for use cases such as credit risk, collection treatment, recommendation engines, among others as well. So with that out of the way, I'll continue on Bee Hong's point of how all that data that she and the team managers are actually eventually used to create value. And I will do that by sharing a few example use cases. So first of all, COVID-19 analytics. This will consist of 2 subtopics. Number 1 will be outbreak approximation, which is actually an initiative that we started at Maxis. And we eventually got involved with the Ministry of Health, where the objective was actually to estimate the potential spread of the virus so that resources could be allocated more effectively. Then from there, I'll jump into a slightly smaller scale use case, which is the Maxis in-house contact tracing project. And this is to ensure that the employees returning to the office can do so as safely as possible. Then I'll finish off with the last topic, which is AI for recommendation. So I'm sure you're all aware, this is actually one of the most far-reaching applications of AI at the moment. Okay, so to start off with COVID-19 Outbreak initiative, I have to first state that because of the confidentiality involved, we can't go into too much detail, but we can just sort of give a high-level overview of what this use case actually entailed. So for a bit of background on this, we actually conducted this initiative sometime early last year when the COVID cases in Malaysia were just starting to show signs of rapid growth and where there were quite a few clusters that were just beginning to form. So what happened was myself and some teammates actually got together and we were talking about, at the time, the recent rise of COVID cases in the country, how it seemed to be spreading, across the stage really rapidly. And we were actually quite determined to see if we could apply some modeling and statistics to our data in order to come up with an estimate of how the virus was likely going to spread further from there. And so what we did was, first of all, we started to compile the locations of some of the largest clusters. And at the time, if you remember, this was mainly the Sri Petaling cluster, along with some other small ones spread across the country. And then from there, we then started using some geospatial techniques such as geofencing in order to approximate the aggregated movement between the districts. And finally, on top of that, we would then apply some statistics which involve, for example, estimating population densities, applying viral reproduction rates to the data, and all this in order to come up with an estimate on how the virus was most likely to spread next, which is actually what's displayed on the slide here. So on the left, you see the approximations that we came up using our techniques, with the red areas being what we said was going to be the most impacted. And on the right is the actual cases that were reported within the next few weeks after we came up with the approximations. So as you can see here, we found that there was quite a big overlap between the areas that we approximated as being of high risk versus the subsequently reported cases. And what we observed from there was that as we continued tracking this over the course of the next few weeks or 1 or 2 months, we found that more and more of the areas that we initially estimated as having a high risk was actually subsequently getting hit. And on this slide, you see the same representation, but for East Malaysia instead. So again, there were quite large overlaps between the locations that we approximated and the subsequently reported cases. And again, this also did continue to grow in the weeks to come when we were tracking this. And at this point, while we continued tracking these results, we were actually already in contact with the MOH on some other COVID-19 related initiatives as well, where we were working closely with them on generating useful analytics in order to support their efforts at the time. And so as we continued working on those initiatives over the course of the next few months, we actually reached the point of what we thought at the time was some stability. And at that point, many companies across the country, Maxis included, was just starting to get their employees to return to the office in a somewhat staggered approach. So at that point, we then shifted our attention to a slightly smaller scale contact tracing project to try and ensure that this return to office procedure was going to happen as safely as possible. Yeah, in this slide. So we started working with some other teams here at Maxis on an in-house contact tracing application. And we did that by first of all distributing Bluetooth tags to all our employees. And these tags basically emit a signal that is captured by other surrounding tags. The idea being, of course, that the closer you are to one another, the stronger that signal reading is actually going to be. But of course, just like most real-life data sources, Bluetooth signals aren't always very straightforward to use because there's a lot of noise involved that has to be processed first in order to make it usable. So in order to achieve that, we first have to process and spoon these signals before we can come up with two items, mainly the approximation of the distance between our employees in the office and also the frequency of contact between the employees. And once this data is all sorted out, then we can start using some social network analysis techniques in order to perform the actual contact tracing and also to try to identify clusters, potential clusters that may be forming in real time. And so once all the data is processed, the next step is always to present all of that information, usually in the form of a dashboard so that the respective users can perform the actual contact tracing. And through this dashboard, the user can first of all just have a glimpse of all the connections between employees. From there, also filter down specific dates that they want to further analyze. And also start to explore the graph and look at, for example, the largest nodes in the graph, which are the individuals that have the most connections during that time. So probably following the SOP the least, and actually start to get more information on these people. And for example, if a specific person has actually already tested positive for the virus, then the user is then able to actually drill down further and search for the individual, as seen here, and also start to look for other people that they may have been in contact with using filters on, how long a duration they were in contact with, for example, more than 15 minutes, and looking at, specific distances of contact, for example, below 2 meters. And from there, you can also start to look at these people's extended connections. So up to 3 degrees of separation apart from that individual. And this is just to ensure that you are sufficiently covering the spread between all these connections. And finally, once all this analysis is done and conducted, you can then download a full report. And this is in order to follow up with these cases, which basically streamlines the process and makes sure that a targeted approach is being taken when you're dealing with cases like these. So that concludes just a very brief sharing of some of the COVID initiatives that we've taken here at Maxis. I will now just follow up on the second topic, which is AI for recommendation. So in this topic, I will go through, first of all, some of the importance of recommendation engines and how some of these complexities are being dealt with by some state-of-the-art systems. And then I will just close off with what a typical recommendation process flow looks like, at least according to my experience. So to start off, as I'm sure you all know, recommendation engines are practically everywhere in our daily lives, and they can have a very big influence on the decisions that we make, even the content that we consume. So for example, if you just look back at your past week or so, and just consider the songs that you listen to on Spotify, or all the videos that you watch on YouTube, products that you bought online, Shopee, Lazada, even the food delivery that you ordered online, all these has basically been powered by some form of recommendation engine. And although all these different recommendation engines may have different designs and different architectures under the hood, what they all basically have to do is to distill down an entire catalog of products, which, for example, may contain that billions of videos on YouTube or songs on Spotify, and from there figure out which ones are the most relevant to you. So again, because the size of this data can be extremely large, and there is usually quite a bit of complexities involved as well, this is typically done in a few steps, which is illustrated in this slide. So this usually starts off with what's called the distillation model. And this is to first filter down that huge catalog of products, again, billions of videos on YouTube, right, into a workable number of just the most likely candidates. So from there, once you actually have a smaller pool that you can start working on, this is where some more complex and difficult models can then start to take over. And these models can then further select from these filtered candidates and really optimize what is eventually going to be displayed to the customer, and also in what order to display the products. So at the stage of generating these final recommendations, this problem can be optimized in many, many different ways. For example, some models want to optimize the purchases, the revenue. Some would be trying to maximize the click-through rate conversion. Some would want to make sure that you have a big, diverse set of products that's being offered to the customer. So because of that, there's also a lot of different ways that these engines can be built. But in the following slide, I'd like to just try to give an example of what this process flow usually looks like, at least from my experience. So this is broken down into three main parts. Firstly, you have the data sources, which is of course the fuel required for the engine. Next, you have the recommendation models. So this would be what you use to generate your desired output. And finally, you have the recommendations themselves. So this could include, again, recommendations for deals, products, songs, etc. So starting off with data sources first. In general, you have three main types of data sources that are usually taken into account for recommendation. So first, you have user data. And this describes the actual users themselves. So this can comprise of, for example, demographics, age, location, behavior, interest, and so on, to understand the customer base that you're actually dealing with. Next, you have events data. So events data includes basically what you're doing on the app or the website that you're visiting. So for example, what you've purchased in the past, what you've clicked on, what products you searched for, what pages you're viewing and how long you're viewing them for, and so on. And finally, you have the items data themselves. So this is data, of course, on the items, and such as descriptions of the products, what sort of characteristics these products have. For example, a price, a category, and in some cases, even the images of the products themselves. And there are, of course, other different data sources that can be used in order to enhance this capability. But these should usually be the main considerations, at least a starting point when it comes to recommendation models. So once you have all that data in place, this is where the model development cycle actually comes in. So this usually starts off with, first of all, data processing. So processing that data into something that is usable, something that's understandable by the ML models that will be developed. And this can be quite a complex step because of all the different types of data that you'll be dealing with. Again, for example, you have tabular data, you have time series data, you have textual data in the form of your descriptions, you may even have images of your products, and all these different data types have to be handled with different manners, right? Then from there, this is where feature selection will come in. So feature selection is very important in order to identify which of these features from your data actually add value to your model and which ones may just end up, causing you more problems down the road in this cycle. So once this is in place, then that is where you can start to consider the actual models that will be developed. So this usually starts with, first of all, training multiple machine learning algorithms, and then validating those models according to whatever business objective that you are trying to optimize. And finally, from there, actually selecting the best performing models that you want to eventually deploy. And within this process itself, there are usually quite a few complexities that you have to deal with. So for example, first of all, will be the cold start problem. So cold start problem is someone new enters your platform and they have no historical data, no historical purchases. You don't know what they like, you don't know what they don't like. How are you going to generate a recommendation for them? Next, similarly to that, you also have new product catalogs. So for example, if you want to introduce new items to your platform, and again, no one has bought these items before, maybe these items are very different from the current items that you have on your product. For example, a very different price range, a whole new category. How do you actually incorporate these items and recommend them effectively? Next, in terms of optimization. So again, what actual objectives are you trying to optimize for? It could be views, it could be click-through rate, purchases. And even when you choose what you're trying to optimize for, how do you translate that in terms of accuracy metrics that you can actually assess your model fairly on? And also, finally, it's quite common to be dealing with multiple algorithms at once. Again, because maybe you might want to be optimizing different business objectives, or maybe because you have all these different data structures that you're trying to handle. And so when you have these multiple algorithms, how do you basically make sure that they are working effectively and they interwork seamlessly as well? So next, assuming that you already have gone through these complexities and you have a model that works really well, it's achieving your business objectives, then this is where you start to have to think about how you're going to deploy the model first of all, and how you're going to operationalize this model so that this model can start to serve its business purpose in a reliable manner. And during this process, this is where you would first have to consider scale. So for example, how is your model going to be performing efficiently when you have to start serving millions of customers that are visiting your website, and you have to start offering them products out of your entire billions of product catalog? So how do you do that all effectively in real time? Then related to that also comes model maintenance. So model maintenance to ensure that the model that you have developed is still performing well over time. So for example, the recommendations that you're giving are still relevant, your performance metrics are not degrading, you don't have unwanted biases towards certain products, and basically making sure that you're retraining the model properly in order to keep maintaining and achieving those objectives that you set out to accomplish. So once this entire process is concluded and you've fully operationalized your model, this is where you finally reach your end state, which is generating personalized recommendations for your customers. And again, depending on the objective that you set out to accomplish, this can take many different forms. The example here being some of the recommendations that we actually do offer through our Maxis apps. And so here I'd like to just end it with, here at Maxis, we have developed a few recommendation models, some examples being shown here. And we're always looking for different ways to further improve them. For example, by considering alternative data sources to enrich our data sets, or testing new different ML architecture types in order to further the recommendations that we end up displaying to our customers. And this is mainly to ensure that the customers that do end up visiting our channels get a more and more personalized experience. So that concludes my presentation for the day. Thank you very much. I will pass the floor back to Bee Hong to close out this session.
I think Brianna or
Yep.
Wayne?
Thanks, Bee Hong. Thanks, Bee Hong. Thanks, Ethan. I think the topics are very interesting and we do learn a lot from here, right? So we have a few questions on the floor. So I think one of it has been answered. Yumi is actually asking, is Visual Insight something in-house software or in GCP? So beyond, I think you answered that is actually a data studio in cloud. It's part of the solution for Google Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, for one of the slides, yes.
Yep. So Amiyu has another question. I think this pointed out to Ethan. Do you have example of output or product after using distillation model?
Yeah, so basically that would be trying to filter down the entire catalog into something that is workable, right? For example, you have like 1 billion videos on YouTube using the same example, then you want to filter that down to maybe, for example, just 500 videos that, you know, Brianna, you might be very interested in. So the effective output is basically the product itself, along with at least probably a measure of how probable it is that you'll be liking that video.
Understood. Okay, Waishin has a question. What technology or tool do you use to build or deploy AI models? Is it in Google Cloud as well?
Yeah, so we use a lot of technologies on Google Cloud, for example, like the AI notebook. So, but we try to be cloud agnostic. So although a lot of our technology sits within Google Cloud, we also do explore other platforms like AWS. And yeah, so we do a lot of our workloads on the cloud.
Understood. Burrow has a question. What is the time frame for model maintenance and retraining consideration?
Okay, so yeah, so model maintenance, yeah, I think in this case, it's usually dependent on some of the use cases. For some use cases like recommendation, for example, if you just think about how MCO has affected a lot of user behavior, right? All this can happen very quickly. And so it's very important to make sure that you are tracking the relevant metrics. So whatever you're optimizing for, and you know, some other supporting metrics as well, to make sure that as the days go by, you're not experiencing anything out of the ordinary, right? You still have a certain accuracy that's going on, etc. And from there, then in terms of retraining consideration, it can be structured in a few different ways as well. For example, retraining can be a very expensive, a very time-consuming task. So in some cases, it's very important to figure out under what circumstances exactly you want to be retraining your model, right? Maybe some simple tasks, you can just retrain it every month, every week. But in some other cases, you have to maybe, you know, have a policy for it. For example, if my accuracy dips below X%, then I'll make sure that I retrain it. I have a process in place. I'm going to make sure that I can hit that accuracy percentage again.
Understood. Okay. Coming from myself, and I think Waishin also have a question. I think Bihong, we wanted to ask you, right? How do you drive data adoption and data-driven decision among your stakeholders in Maxis? Like, is there any tips?
Normally what we do in terms of the data adoption is because right now when we are having a cloud migration, right, it's not just about the data platform itself, but it is also about the tools that our current business users who are using. So what we are doing together is we also work together with our vendor or our partner together, that when we introduce something new to them, right, at the same time we also drive the awareness. Means that we will have a pre-workshop to start to socialize them, and then also to share with them what are the new plan or the roadmap that we have along with that journey. And from there, based on the different section or different themes that we have, depending on the solution that we are providing. So take for example, maybe we will start with consumer first, right? And then we follow by enterprise, followed by different division. Or it could be also based on the solution that we're providing. Because today for BI tools, for instance, right, we are having because this is legacy. In the past, different division, they are using different tools in place. So what we're doing is when we start the migration, we will phase out based on what need to be done first. So example, let's say tools A, we need to move that to example Data Studio or the new platform, another new tools that we are using, right? So then we will start the workshop together. Then we start the training to drive awareness. At the same time, along the way, when we started the actual work or the migration, then we will sit together with them to also share with them what is the possible changes or impact. And from there, we provide the training, the guidance, and the support to move to along with them. In terms of the second question, right? Sorry, the first question is more of BI tools. But if you're talking about the overall data driven, right? How do we drive the awareness of that? Today, on every month, we will have a two session that we, Big Data COE, we will conduct the session or training. Not to say training, it's more of like awareness. Example, BQ 101 for beginner, BQ 101 for, let's say, more expert user. So from there, right, we will do a demo, we'll do a sharing, and also we gather feedback from user on what are the pain point or what are the issue that they are facing. So from there, we will drive the awareness, because from there you will know on monthly basis, for each of the session, we have about more than 100 users that's joining us. So from there, we grow together with them. Yeah, it's not just one party. Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys act like coaches together with the one that's serving them as well.
Correct. So BQ 101 is one of it. Example, data quality, metadata management, cloud data warehouse.
Data classification and etc.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Jai has a question. In Maxis, one person is a building from end to end or is working within a group of people, wondering averagely how long will it take to develop a PaaS model?
Yeah, so to answer that, I guess from Bihong's team, that's where they manage all the data that is eventually used. Then from there, usually some of my team members will take over and use the data in order to create these models, right? So usually it is, although some people can do an end-to-end development and testing, at the end of the day, sometimes we have team members that come about with special skills. So for example, you have the data scientist that comes in, scopes the problem, tries to figure out the solution to the business problem and starts to, explore data, develop those models. And once that already goes through that validation, maybe in terms of, proof of concepts, and to validate that the model that you're building is actually achieving that value that you're setting out to create, then from there, we have our ML operations team that will come in and make sure that this model that you develop, you basically build the entire framework around it. So you operationalize it well, you have an entire pipeline, you're checking whatever is required in terms of the data integrity, output integrity, making sure that your models are basically performing well even after you start to deploy it.
Okay, thanks, Ethan. I think on top of that, I have a question that was in my note, right? So you are saying that from data scientists, you guys are actually taking the data from the data lake or the data warehouse that is built by Bihong's team, right? So I saw in one of your slides, you actually put down data processing as well. And I know that from Bihong's slide, we do have data processing in data lake and data warehouse. So how is these two different? Maybe you can elaborate a bit further.
Yeah, so Beyond Site definitely do a lot of data processing as well. In some cases, it might be more geared towards current business reports and current business objectives already. So what we do a lot of time as well, we do use her process data as well, but sometimes we may need different types of aggregation or different types of feature engineering when it comes to these models. So that is where we would have to go back down to the lowest level, the data lake, and basically apply all these transformations that are required specifically for these use cases that we get involved with.
Understood. Okay. So Kevin has a question. As having this kind of project would require a lot of resources, how enterprise measures the value of initiating this kind of project?
Thanks, Kevin, for that question. Yeah, as you can see, right, that's the reason why we move from the legacy data warehouse towards the big data, the Hadoop platform, and towards the cloud data warehouse. The benefit is very obvious, right? So because in the past, the decision is business want to move ahead, right, to stay competitive, but the current rigid data architecture won't allow that. So that is how it came in, right? That's the first decision point. Number two is how do we also get the involvement from various parties, right? From business user together with IT and also different team on top of their BAU. How do they also contribute the resource to move together with us? So this is also the strategic alignment that need to be made beforehand as well. Because business need that information to be in place, and they also need us. They also want also IT to meet the speed of the marketing need as well to drive the data-driven use case. So this is how it come in. Do I answer your question, Kevin?
Okay. Yep. Kevin say yes.
Okay.
Okay, Bihong, I think I personally have a question.
Sure.
So, in terms of the data access, I know as much as we want to enable the whole data self-service capability in the company, right? But we still need time for our business user to keep up to the pace, obtain the necessary skills and whatever not, right? So, how do you actually strike a balance between the data access that we are giving them and the skills that they are obtaining? Like for example, if someone say I'm good in I'm not sure what's the visualization tool that you are using in Maxis, so let's say I'm good in this visualization, right? But we don't know whether they are good enough to protect our data, so I'm not sure if I should give them the data mart access or etc. You see, so is there any advice on that?
So in Maxis, we categorize the user into different segments. We have a content viewer, we have data discoverer, the content creator, as well as expert user. So let's say Brianna come to us, right? So you're saying that, okay, I have SQL background, or I know how to design the visualization. Can you just grant me access? So there are a few ways to go about it, because the data that sit in cloud data warehouse, right? There is a data owner tied to it as well. So it depends on what kind of data that you wanted to access. So take, for example, if you want to access the recommended engine score, right? The propensity score that Ethan has been built, right? So the owner could be Ethan, or it could be the business owner as well. So if you're talking about accessing the generic data that we have, right? Example, subscriber profile and all those, then if your current role, you need that information, then that access will be granted. But that is more of the generic confidential data, because in our data warehouse, all the data is classified as the lowest as a confidential. And then from there will be a restricted data as well. So take, for example, for Ethan's side, they are saying that, okay, if you need access to this information, this credit score, then you have to go through the approval from different owner. So this is how we control that. And at the same time, for the data, the tables that we enable, right, each of the column, let's say, if you classify that as restricted, then that column will not be accessible by you without getting the right access. Yeah.
Clear. Thanks.
And why, maybe I can add on why the data owner is very important, is because they will govern the definition of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, right, the data classifications and the governance bit, right? So I know we have technical data, surely we also have the data tab, right? So when you are launching this data governance project in Maxis, right, what are the challenges and how do you actually overcome that?
There are also some challenges when we started that. So number one is you need someone to govern the definition. So when we started that, right, during the legacy warehouse, and we moved to the big data, because we are not just doing like-to-like migration, right? We also want to improve along the way. That's when we start to centralize all the business grocery or definition that we have. So I think number one is who is the right person to maintain the data definition, right? That's number one. And then the next thing is who will do the approval in terms of the because if you own the access, does it mean that you must do the approval, or you can also empower them to the IT custodian or to the data steward to help you to govern the access. So this is a topic that we have discussed, and we also align on that during the migration as well. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, maybe I throw this question to both Ethan and Bihong. Both of you has gone through, I think Maxis has been going through a huge cloud transformation journey, right?
Yeah.
What are your key learnings that you learned from this entire journey? Maybe we can start with Bihong first.
The key learning that I have, right, from legacy to big data, I would say that at that point of time, the most pain point, if I can myself together with business user, right, the most challenging one on top of the data processing, data ops, all those, is the UAT. How are you going to do the UAT? Because you are moving from disparate data sources, right? All the definition is different. Then how do you align all the business unit to get to that single definition? That's the most challenges that we have. Yeah, and then from there, you also have to find the owner to it. So that's part of learning, but that is the change for the good, for the better. And when we move from the big data or Hadoop platform to the cloud data warehouse, we see a significant improvement. This is the learning that we have, which is now we have automated testing. So bravo to the team.
Yeah.
So in the past, right, imagine we have few thousands of the business grocery that we are governing. So Brianna, Wai Shing, Ethan, they all of us we have to share the pie. Okay, you have to write script to do the testing, and you have to know the transformation rules as well.
Yeah.
So right now, when we are moving from our big data, I mean our Hadoop on-premise big data to the cloud, what happened is there's automated the testing in place already to check from the source to the target, and then from the current on-prem big data platform to the cloud. So then we just validate the result. So can you imagine that big improvement, the significant improvement?
Guy just replied, I hate the UAT thing. We all don't like it. We don't like writing script from the developer. The user don't like to do UAT. Yeah.
Correct. So one of the learning that we have is as well, when you have a growing data, right? There's also ask from business, can I have a no coding solution as well? Yeah, that's also one of the area that we will start to explore and look into as well. Because for different user, when we are doing different migration, number one is definitely there will be a disruption to their BAU. When we do the script change, I think Ethan can answer that in a short while. I'm not sure how many model script that he has to make changes when we migrated from different data warehouse in different places. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Ethan, do you have any key learnings from your journey, transformation journey?
Yeah, try to write your scripts very neatly. I think that's what I really learned from this one. I think that was one thing. Yeah, because if they keep pushing these models to prod, although they have gained a value and everything, by the end of the day, when you have to do these migrations, it's a very long process. And that's where communication was very important as well. Because at the end of the day, without the data, our models are all useless. You can't do anything, right? So when Bihong's team is responsible for all these migration, all these transformations, I think the communication is very important because they know best, but we know how it applies to us as well. So I think that was very important.
Yeah. And on top of that, right, to also ease Ethan or business users' pain is as well. The data quality check is also in place already when we are moving from on-prem to cloud data warehouse.
I think that automated. You just need to apply the rules in the console.
Yeah. So Ethan will share with us the baseline check that is definitely need to be in place already. I mean, zero count or null value, right? But Ethan will also share some of the business rules that he wanted to apply, certain threshold. When we operationalize the certain automation, so then the data quality check is also a compulsory check today to be in place. And there's a notification, a trigger to respective data owner. I mean, not data owner, the data user, so that they are aware if there's an issue.
For the data classifications, right? For the future data that is coming, sorry, I'm very in this thing. Do you automate that classifications, or like business user actually has to define it when they are defining they have to define.
Yeah, so during the demand management, right, whether it's the go to market, the new, let's say you have launched new product, you want to ingest new data, so then that classification is already in place already. We will check business user. Because by default, everything is already confidential. It's just that do you want to elevate that classification to slightly higher or not? So means that So then we have extra protection to it.
Because they need a lot of discipline if, let's say, business user have to go and define one by one.
No, not define one by one. That's why
there's a default classification, so they just have
correct. Yes. This is also one of the debate that we have when we started that as well. Do we go one by one? Because
exactly, and there are a lot of data types. Yeah, correct.
So along with the migration, what we did is also we simplified that as well.
That's very nice.
At the same time, protected our data as well.
Yep. Thanks, Bihong. I think we have a student here. What advice would you give an undergraduate studying a non-tech or non-data degree who wants to have a career in data? Ethan, do you want to take that? Bihong is asking to take the scholarship. Ethan, if you want to take it, Ethan, you are from an engineering background, right?
And maybe Sunita can help after as well.
So I think from my point of view, main thing would be to start getting your hands dirty. So I also came from an engineering background, so that is technical. So there are some transferable skills when it comes to data science as well. But when I came in, I didn't really have any programming knowledge as well, very limited at least. So everything was sort of learned on the job when I came in. So I think that the most effective way, especially now that all these tools are all being democratized, right? There's so much open source platforms, there's so much open source learning. You can even learn, all that stuff on YouTube. You don't have to pay, a few $100s just for one lesson anymore. So I think because of that, it's sort of even the playing field. Anyone can sort of, start getting into the field. I think that's really great, especially for these non-tech students, right? You can just start to get hands dirty, go on Kaggle, try to build some models, see how that works, try to improve your learning from there as well.
Yep. Thanks, Ethan. Yeah, I think some encouragement to Xiaoxuan lah. I do have a couple of friends who is not from tech background or data background, like biology, chemistry, right? They end up being a data scientist right now, right? So they actually started their role when they joined the company and then somehow get involved in data, but you are way earlier than them. So you can start now, like what Ethan said, be resourceful, go online and find those resources. Katie has a question. I think this will be the last one, right? I think I heard Maxis has a common data model or definition. What is the most important consideration when making changes to common data model?
Thanks, Katie, for the question. Can I just clarify the common data model here you are referring to? Example, the subscriber profile or the transaction tables and all those, or? So for each of the change, right, when we gotten the requirement, let's say we are saying that, okay, with this product launch, let's say we launch a new product, and then I wanted to be able to start track this information. So for my team, we will capture that requirement and then we will share with the data architect. So in Maxis and in Big Data Security team, we have data architects who will design the solutioning on that. But beforehand on that, right, if we know that by enable or capturing this requirement to deploy, I mean, if we put that into production, right, if we are aware of what are the implication or what the impact, then we will already advise business user already. Example, potentially by having this new attribute, it could be already overlap with the existing one. So should we consider this new one or we enhance it, right? Common reference data or metadata.
I think what she means is like what you said, the user data, more dimensional data. Like I think, right, Kitty? Did Bihong answer your questions, Kitty, on her explanation?
Today we are still in the journey. So yeah. As for certain data lineage capability that may not be in place yet. So today is still a human knowledge, right? But tomorrow, definitely that is one of the area that we want to achieve as well. Yeah,
data lineage. Yeah,
because we want to work more effectively and productive, right? So you don't, as a data architect, I think Brianna can answer that as well. If you make one changes to one table, how would that impact the rest of the downstream?
Yeah.
Maybe you can share your experience today. How do you do that?
I think we are running out of time, so okay. We can keep it to the next session. Yeah, we'll keep it on the outline. Yeah, I'll pass it back to Wai Shin first. Let me share my screen.
Yeah. There's one more question on the tracker. So if Ethan, you want to answer, you can answer. She's asking if you have planning for the tool to go public. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we did have these considerations as well, especially like the contact tracing app that we developed. But at the same time, there are different things to consider. For example, once this is actually sold as a product, maybe to enterprise customers, you still have to build that support framework as well, right? What if anything goes wrong? You have to have dedicated resources for that as well. So these are some of the considerations along with other prioritizations, right? What else we're working on? What should be the main priority when it comes to the teams that are working on this? So it is a consideration, but it's something that we are still sort of prioritizing in our workflows.
I see. Okay, I guess that's all. So Brianna put up the feedback form link. So we appreciate if you can put in your feedback in the feedback form. And at the same time, we will take a group photo. So if you are comfortable, please turn on your video cam, a webcam, then we can quickly take a good photo.
We also have one more slide we want to share, if we can, quickly.
Is Jamie, you will show the slide?
Who is going to share the slide?
Yi Hong will share the slide.
Okay. The feedback link is in the chat, so please really give us some feedback. Otherwise, we're going to take a break from organizing event.
Okay, this is the last two slides that we wanted to share with the rest of you. Maybe for you or for your friends or for your family member as well. So we are hiring. There are still a
Sorry, Bihong, I'm seeing
I
black
didn't see
screen right now. I'm seeing black screen, yeah.
What about the rest?
Yeah,
Same.
black screen.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
black screen also.
Let me try again.
Guys, please stay with us. We haven't taken photo yet. Let me
Yeah, can you
stop
see?
the recording.